I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope you enjoy the broadcast. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you at the end of the show. One day someone asked me, Ella, why do you do talk shows? Like, why is this so important to you? I said, because I want people to know that God does use us. Because sometimes things don't happen to you. They happen through you. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show, where we set the table for real talk conversations. So stay tuned. It's all coming up next. The Ella Johnson Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. It's Saturday night, and I am so excited that you have taken the time to tune in with me tonight. Well, tonight we have another interesting show. We're going to talk about domestic violence. We've been talking about it. I think it's very important to bring awareness to this subject and this situation. Why? Because so many people who are watching this broadcast or who may watch this broadcast tomorrow, you are suffering in silence. And the Ella Johnson Show is committed to making sure that you don't have to, that you can hear other people's stories and be encouraged. Well, tonight I have a beautiful Miss Wendy Quick that's going to share her story with us tonight. And, later on, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the public with this publicly high child with Cassie and Diddy and all of that. I know you've heard about it. If you're not living under a rock, you have heard about it. But let's talk about domestic violence. Domestic violence is like a pattern of behavior, right? It's a pattern of behavior that where people use their power and their control to, gain control over people, their intimate partners. And this is one of those situations where, they tell you what to wear, what not to wear, where to go, who to go with. It's something that can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate, in other words, right, Wendy? This situation does not discriminate. So it doesn't matter your race, your religion, your gender. It doesn't matter. It happens to children. So this is something that we want to make sure that you have awareness on, because a lot of people that come to this broadcast and sit right there across from me, they tell me is that they really didn't realize that they were being in a domestic violence situation. I tell you, now we talked about what domestic violence is, but let me tell you what it isn't. It isn't love. Okay. And sometimes the lines get, gray, because we think that it is love. Oh, he's just crazy about me. Well, I want you guys to stay tuned tonight. I want you to stay with me. I want you to become engaged, because Wendy's story is just like so many others, but Wendy is here to tell it. My cousin isn't. So that's the reason I started doing these shows, Wendy. I don't know if you know that, but the reason I started doing domestic violence shows is because I felt like awareness was necessary, because even as a family member, sometimes you don't know that your loved one is sitting there and suffering and being beaten every single day because they think they can handle it. Well, this is a we problem. So we are going to talk about it tonight. So I want you guys to meet Miss Wendy. Wendy is, she's an entrepreneur. She's the CEO and founder of the Butterfly Queen Pageant. Now, this is something that she created along with the community that was born out of her situation. And that's something. See how sometimes I told you, sometimes your plot in life, what you're going to become in life, is based on something that you're passionate about. She is now passionate about domestic violence. It's because she went through some things. So welcome. Oh, and she's also a mom. She's a mom and she's a wife. So welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Wendy. I'm so excited that you chose to tell your story right here with me.
Well, thank you
Welcome.
for having me. It's an honor. I tell people all the time, you can't stop the effect if you don't stop the cause. And the only way to stop the cause and the effect is to get the information out there, to educate, to make everyone aware. There are too many people that are still suffering. And the worst part was when I really started my nonprofits and I really started advocating really hard and becoming an activist for domestic violence. It was during the time that my mother was still alive and she was here, and her thoughts were, I can't believe after almost 50 years, it is still the same as when it was me.
Yeah.
And to hear
And
that
we're
from
gonna,
someone who
yeah,
is becoming active in it, going, wait a minute, 50
yeah.
years and we don't have a change. What's wrong?
We're going to talk about that. I'm so glad. That's a very good question. And I hope that you guys will have an answer for that, because we do need to get to the bottom of this. And one way to do it is to talk about it. Now, before we get started, and you guys hear from Wendy, I want to share with you guys, this is something I want. If you're watching this broadcast and you feel like you would like to come on the broadcast because you have something to say, or you want to tell a little bit about what you're going through, I just put the link where you can chime in with us. It will take you backstage. I'll see you there and I'll bring you on the show, because your opinions are welcome, your questions are welcomed, your stories are also welcome. So if you would like to join us, then just click on that link. Now, Wendy. Oh my gosh. I listen, I read a lot about your story, and I felt encouraged, because you're one of those kind of people that you're willing and excited about sharing to help someone else. And that's why we go through stuff, guys. Not to just hold on to it and have pride about it and think you're the only one. No, her story is going to change somebody's life. I just believe that. So, Wendy, this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go through your story. We're going to go through the timeline. We're going to start at the beginning, and we're going to take everybody all the way up to where you are now, and just what led you to the butterfly queen pageantry, right? Because
Right?
everything has a story, guys. All right.
It
So let's
does.
let's start with your story, because it starts when you're very young,
Yes,
like 4 or 5 years old. Tell
that's
us
correct.
how it was for you growing up in your household at that age. What was it like? What did you see?
So here's the crazy part. People say, what does an abuser look like? Well, my mother's abuser looked like the average person. When he came into her life, he was wearing a suit, a tie, looked like the greatest security guy, protected her, was all this great stuff. She brought him into our lives. We did things, and it was like 1 week he left and he came back and he was a totally different person. And I'm not sure if the facade was the first person or the second person.
So
What
what
I
kind
know
of things did you
was it took us
experience?
it
Yeah.
took us 3 years to get out.
So
Um,
what kind of things did you experience? Now, this is just what you saw. So share with us
these
what
are
you
these are
saw
things
growing
that I
up.
saw and I can
Yeah.
remember. Now, being in the
Okay.
age of about 4, you don't really think you're going to remember a lot of things. And when we started the working as an activist, my mother made the statement that children don't remember that young. And we have to understand that they do. And I went through the explanation of the day that really, I think, drew the straw for my mother, because I had watched my mother be smacked around and hit and yelled at. And, I watched my 6-month-old brother fall out the chair, and he picked him up and he smacked him and he slammed him back down on the chair. And my mother came to his defense. And she should have never been having to be in that situation. And
Yeah.
it affects us all. It's not just our mothers, but it's effective to the children as well, because it stays in line. I can remember the fear in her eyes after we'd
Wow.
gotten taken out, because we had to be taken out by SWAT. It's one of the reasons why my mother didn't want to discuss her domestic violence, because she'd left it alone. And so I had to make her aware that the stories and the testimony of survival are very important on educating and to let someone know that there are avenues. If the
Yeah.
family is willing to go all the way to the end, there are avenues. SWAT came to the door, or actually, police officers and my grandfather came to the front door and it took his attention. And the SWAT came in and took my brother and I out the door as my grandfather removed my mother out the front door. This was the
And
only way we could get out safely because this man held a shotgun to me and my 1-year-old brother and said, "You won't leave. I'll take your children first."
oh,
And police officers and community, some of us know that, but some people don't realize the things and the devastations that happen. I was able to remember this. And as
yeah.
we begin to tell the stories and we begin to let it know, you're able to remember more. And I think that's where therapists go when they tell you, come on, let's remember it and let's bring it back. Because the more opportunity that you have to bring it back, sometimes it's better healing as well. Because you're able to unlock it, release it, and let it go. People always ask me, how did you do it? Well, I let go and I let God.
Amen.
And had I
So
not
let's,
learned,
yeah. Hmm.
through life to let go and let God, I wouldn't be here because it
So
gets worse.
let's unpack a little bit more about that situation when you were growing up. You said SWAT came in, and it's because they were alerted that there was a problem going on in the house.
My mother had finally done what she didn't want to
She
do.
did.
She reached out
Yeah.
to her father. My mother didn't really have a lot to do with the family because my grandfather had violated her as a teen and as a young girl. So she left the family, but she did what she had to
Uh,
do to save us. So my grandfather came to the door with the police. That was the only thing he knew to do. And when they did that, he took us out. And it took him, I would say, roughly a year and a half before he found us. But he literally knocked on the door. And I remember my mother turning around and saying, "See, I told you he's found me." And I promise it wasn't in them words. She was very scared. She's like, "He's found me. There's no way. I told you he's found me." And he had.
oh,
He'd brought a truck for my brother and a doll for me and was just this all apologetic person. And I promise I could see the fear in my mother's eyes and I could feel it.
yeah. So I'm glad that we're talking about that, and I'm glad that this is an example, because women, when you are allowing this abuse, and we're going to get into all of the other semantics about abuse and what happens, but when this is brought into the home, your children are also victims now at a
Yes.
young age. And a lot of times history will show and prove that they also either become abusers or victims as well later on in life.
Hurt
So
people,
now
hurt
that
people.
hurt people, we hear it all the time. So you're out of your mom, you guys, she got you guys out. Now you're growing up and you're meeting guys. Talk to me about those teenage years, because I think that's the next pivotal point for you, is in your teenage years. Talk about those times.
Well, I will be honest with you. I was kind of a hard teenager because not only had I dealt with that domestic violence, but I was also violated as a child. Um, During Hurricane Alicia, about 6 months around that area, there was a gentleman who took my innocence, which caused me to lash out as a teenager. So I left home at 16, thinking I had found the love of my life. He was going to love me better than the home I was in, right? Yeah, no. He almost took my life. He took the life of my first two children that I was pregnant with. Um,
What do
he
you mean
locked
he
me
took
in
the
a house.
life of your what do you mean he took
He
the life of
he
your
beat me until I miscarried, and we made sure that I was no longer pregnant
oh,
because he didn't want no children.
so
I
let's go back.
wasn't. I
Yeah, let's
wasn't.
Yeah.
approved or good enough to carry his children.
So let's go back.
So,
It was your babysitter that violated you when you were a
yes.
teenager. Was this babysitter a family member? Was it a friend of the family? What was the
No,
relation?
he was a friend of the family, and I'm it took her a while to allow him to watch us, but it was because she needed to be able to go to work. She needed to provide for 4 children, and being a single mom, you have to do what you have to do to provide for your
Absolutely.
children.
Absolutely.
And
I get it.
so, she'd ended up finding a new relationship, and he was doing great, but she just needed to be able to work. And
Yeah.
so he really took advantage of my mother's trust and her daughter. And by the time I had the courage to tell it, I was already near a troubled teen. And I was just steps away from no good in my life that I was doing. I
Yeah.
remember when I started healing and I really started talking about domestic violence, this is my exodus. It reminded me of that because by the time I got there, I was the person hurting me now because, well, now I was acting out. Well, somebody's already messed with me, so now I just need to be. That must be what it is to have
Yeah.
everybody like you and love you, right? Because I've not had any positive at this point in my life.
So when you say you were acting out, what do you mean, Wendy? Were
Oh,
you promiscuous?
I
Were you
was, I would say promiscuous, but I didn't lose my virginity at that time. But I definitely flirted with boys, and I definitely got in trouble at
yeah.
school. I was forging my mother's signature. I was stealing from stores. I was doing anything I could to get somebody else's attention because the only attention I had so far was not positive.
So let me go back to something because this is important to know. When you guys got out of the situation, what was your relationship with your mom like after the man was gone, SWAT had come, taken him away? What was your relationship like with mom at this point?
Well, my mom was a hurt person. My mom, I was her first child. My mom struggled. I know my mom loved me, and God gave us years in the end. But at 45, my mom looked at me and told me that my abusive relationship with a teenager was because I left her safe home. But her home wasn't safe. So,
Right.
unfortunately, I had to be the person that said, "But mom, you're part of the reason why I left home." Because the gentleman was walked down the road that violated me. There was never no justice because they thought I was lying. They
Wait a
thought I
minute.
was
So you
telling
went to the
fibs.
so you told somebody about that? Who did you tell?
My mother,
And
my
she didn't believe
mother,
you?
she kicked him out. She made him leave just in case it was true. Because, surely that was what it was. But
Yeah.
I was acting out already. At one point in my life, during the time that he was there, I remember telling her I did not want to exist anymore. I didn't want to be part of the family. And my mother said, "Okay, here's your wish." And she sat me in a corner and she sat me on a cot, and no one was allowed to talk to me because I was already being a troublemaker. Why would she? You're acting out.
So you're going through
She's
stuff
punished.
out there in the streets. You're going through stuff out there. You're going through stuff at home. So at some point you left home. What
Oh,
led to
yes.
that? Yeah, you left home. When you left home, where did you go?
I thought I went somewhere safe. I went to what was my first love.
Okay.
Um, we'd met
How
in
old were you
school,
at that time?
high school.
How
I'm
old were
young.
you?
I was 16.
16 at the time when you left your mother's house?
I left my mother's home, quit high school.
Oh,
Uh, it was better if I just quit, and she checked me out of school and said I was doing other things than to have her in truancy because I was skipping school. I was in, I literally, there's no lie to it. Hurt people hurt people. By that time, I was hurt, and I was looking to hurt myself more than I was anybody else. Because no,
I can
at
understand
that
that.
point, no
Yeah.
one cared for me. So I
So you
literally
in
was doing everything I could to destroy my life. And
wow.
I thank God that He was there and didn't let me.
I know that's right. I know that's so you out of the house, you go live with this guy. What did you experience with him?
Honest word, hell,
Okay.
hell. He
How did
nearly
it
took my
start? Because
life
it
dozens of
wasn't
times.
let's yeah, let's go back to this hell. What prompted this hell? Like how when did you see it? Did you see this before you moved in with him or once you moved
Oh
in?
no, it was much afterwards because,
Okay.
like, they love you at first, right? It's
Oh
all this
yeah. Yeah.
attention. You're
Yeah.
so beautiful. I love you. I want you to come here. And then all of a sudden, well, I'm a mouth that has to be fed. I'm a person that has to take a shower. I'm a, all these things started coming up. And well, his mom or his dad and grandpa began to go, wait a minute, hold on. And so then I became a problem. And when I became the problem, then he tried to solve the solution. And it wasn't in nice ways. There were times when I was walking home late at night and I was put into unsafe predicaments, which caused me a sexual assault at 17. I got home and he found out I'd been sexually assaulted. So I must have gave in because he was able to do so. So I got beat because I got
Oh.
sexually assaulted.
Did you report that
Uh,
to the police? Did you report that assault?
oh no, had I done that, I'd have been, the gentleman let me know real quick he would kill me. I had a knife at my throat. I was 17. I was scared for my life. There was no way.
Yeah. Understandable so. So tell us a little bit, if you can, Wendy, about what you endured with this guy. You said that he almost killed you. Let's lead up to the things that you would experience from day to day, and then tell us about this attempt on your life.
I would say after about 4 months, 5 months, I mean, we were really having a good time. We were teenagers. It was love, I thought. After about that time, something just swapped. It was like I didn't do things good enough. I was hanging out with the wrong people, or I was talking to the wrong person, or I did the wrong thing. And he would he would do things. He would I've had a belt around my neck.
Oh,
I've had a full 12-ounce beer can thrown across the room and leave a scar across my eye because he nearly took me out. Um, I had 2 tattoos put on me. Thankfully, one has been removed. It was his name. It was his property, because that's what I was his property now. He locked me in a room and set the house on fire. Shot at me with a 30-30 shotgun. Nearly missed me. I've been stabbed. When I went to the emergency room for the issues that would cause me injury, he would be right there. And the officer would be asking, and if I said anything wrong, you ever seen how they put their arm right behind you, right on the chair? And if I said the wrong thing, he would gently grab the underfat of my skin right here and
ooh,
pinch, letting me know I better say the right thing. Because if I didn't, then
that
I
was
would
another
surely
beating.
pay, because he was going to come back. Because I didn't have a
So
safe
when he
place.
so when he set the house on fire, was he there or were you just there?
Oh, he was there. I was asleep. I had my friend over. My friend wouldn't sleep with him. So he set us on fire.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. No, I wasn't ready for that
Mhm.
one. Okay. So you had a friend over and he wanted to sleep with her.
Mhm.
And is that something he had done before?
I'm not really sure because he hadn't at this point, or at least not to my knowledge.
So this is something that he liked
And
to do that
because
you just
her
found
and I
out.
didn't want to
Yeah.
do so, she's like, I just want to sleep here until I go home in the morning. This is really tripping me out. And so we actually slept in a different room. I was in a chair and she was on the bed. And all of a sudden, we started smelling smoke. And he had locked the door and set it on fire. And there was fire and smoke coming in the door.
Oh my gosh. And what happened?
We had to break out of the window, which was very hard because he had a grandmother and an uncle that were um, scavengers. So they
Mhm.
collected metal and stuff like that. So to get out the side window was very difficult. And we managed to get out. But yeah, the room was on fire when we woke up.
So then how did it get put out? Who put the fire out?
Oh, the fire department.
So
He
you
said it
called the
was
fire
an
department.
accident.
Oh, it
Oh,
was
the
told it was an
neighbors did.
accident. Yeah. Oh my
I dropped
goodness.
my cigarette. I fell asleep.
Oh, wow. So
And
how
by
do you
that
know
time,
that
my
he
friend was
did?
already scared and had left. She's like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't even want them to
I
know I
know,
was here.
I know, I don't blame her. I'm so sorry. I would be like, you know what? I'm out. I didn't know it
Yeah.
was gonna be all like this to
And
spend the night.
at 17, it's really scary.
I'm
So
sure.
I can understand why she didn't want to stick around and why she didn't want to stay. What I'm thankful
So,
for is that God kept me through it and I survived
amen.
because
Absolutely.
I learned that wasn't the place I wanted to be. And I ended up
So,
going home.
so after this incident, this is what caused you to go home. You went home,
Oh yeah.
and
I
then
went home
how did mom receive you?
very toughly, and it was understandable. Uh, I hid for a long time because he would come to my parents' house, and so instead of causing my family any problem, I was staying somewhere else because my mother was trying to help me stay safe. Uh, my friend who was in the fire with me come to my door one day and knocked on it and asked the person I was staying at to come to the door, if I could come to the door. And I went to the door, and it was a big mistake because he had found her. And
Oh,
so he was around the corner. My mother thankfully lived next door. And so her and my brother, the oldest of my younger brothers, her and him came to the rescue, made him leave. He pulled a knife on my mother, and my mother let him know real quick we weren't going and playing those games, that her life had already been through one of these kind of people. And she told my brother to go call the police, and he left. Now, I'm thankful he left because I don't believe my stepdad would have let him live if he'd have stayed. My stepdad
wow.
has been an amazing anchor in my mother. He was an amazing anchor in my mother's life, which helped her heal from all the disturbing things in her life because she found out what love was.
Amen. Yeah.
Love doesn't
That's why I
hurt.
said that's why I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it
Yeah,
one thing it isn't is love.
yeah.
So
Domestic
so
violence is not love.
was that the end of him? Was that it? It was
It
over.
basically was because he made the mistake of crossing someone else, and they shot him. And by the time I went to make my peace, he was 6 feet under. I didn't have to worry about it. However, forgiving someone who can't ask for forgiveness is hard.
So am I assuming that you haven't forgiven him yet?
I have.
You have.
I have.
How did you figure out how to do it?
I had to start at the beginning. And I had to
Okay.
start by forgiving myself, because I put myself in that predicament. I might
How
not
do you
have put
think?
myself in the other situations in my life that I had to overcome, but I put myself in that situation. So, to a portion, my mother was right. I put myself there. It wasn't safe. But home wasn't safe at that point in time either. I wasn't
But you
secure. I
didn't
wasn't.
deserve. But you didn't deserve what you were getting, whether
No,
you put
no, by
yourself
no
there or
means
not.
do I believe that I deserved it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that by the time I got it together, that she was there to take me in and take me back,
Yeah.
because it gave me time to finish things and learn to start over so that I could try to learn how to find me. And in that process, I met my husband. And when I tell you hurt people, I guarantee you I was trouble when he got me. And that's the first thing our friend told him when he looked across the thing and said, "That's my future
Yeah.
wife." And he says, "You don't understand.
Oh.
You don't want nothing to do with her. She's trouble."
Oh.
And my husband says, "No, that's my wife."
He saw you through God's eyes.
He
That's what he
saw me
did.
through God's eyes.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
exactly what it is. We
So
met about
people,
6 months later.
yeah. So we're gonna get into that, but I want to share something with you guys because a lot of people take, pause into this question. They want to know, why do they stay? What is it that makes them stay? Because I know that that's the thing that we all want to know. So Leslie Morgan Steiner talked about this, and I want you guys to watch this.
The other question everybody asks is, why doesn't she just leave? Why didn't I walk out? I could have left any time. To me, this is the saddest and most painful question that people ask, because we victims know something you usually don't. It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser, because the final step in the domestic violence pattern is kill her. Over 70% of domestic violence murders happen after the victim has ended the relationship, after she's gotten out, because then the abuser has nothing left to lose. Other outcomes include long-term stalking, even after the abuser remarries, denial of financial resources, and manipulation of the family court system to terrify the victim and her children, who are regularly forced by family court judges to spend unsupervised time with the man who beat their mother. And still we ask, why doesn't she just leave? I was able to leave because of one final sadistic beating that broke through my denial. I realized that the man who I loved so much was going to kill me if I let him. So I broke the silence. I told everyone. The police, my neighbors, my friends and family, total strangers. And I'm here today because you all helped me.
Wow. That's what I'm talking about, guys. So
That's the
those of you
important
that
part
have
right
that
there.
question, yeah, this is why people don't leave. So did
I
you
know
listen to what did you hear what she was saying there, Wendy?
Yeah,
How true is what she said?
100% true. I already knew from experience I'd better not try to leave, because every time I did, it just got worse. I said I
Oof.
had no safe place at that time. I left home because I didn't feel safe. Why would I go back? There was no security. There was no safety. I didn't feel safe telling the police. I didn't have nowhere to go. I was 17, 16 to 17. They're going to take you back home. I wasn't going to tell anybody. Why?
Yeah.
He loved me the
Wow.
same as what they did there. Mattered not to me.
You know, that was important to me because even when I find myself telling these stories or off camera talking about domestic violence, everyone that I talk to who has never been in this type of situation always ask that question. Ooh, I would have left. What did she say in the video? She said, when you leave, that's when it really becomes dangerous.
Yeah, I'd been gone months. I was hiding. He still found me. I knew that experience that my mother had had. He still found us. Years. And he
Had
found
it
us. My
not been for
grandfather
your
had connections.
yeah. Had it
He
not been
still
for your
found her.
stepfather, do you think he would have killed you?
Yeah. He would have. I think my stepfather would have killed that young man to save me. And then where would my mother and I have been? My mother would have been back in the same situation, trying to take care of kids, trying to hold a job, trying to do the things that she was before. I wasn't no good for our family. God knew
You
that.
said that you ended up with an addiction. What kind of addiction?
Cocaine in any kind of way. Any and just about every. I remember when I started getting clean and I finally had the edge of it. It was because I was steps away from doing crystal meth or heroin. And the only reason I didn't is because the person sitting in the room with me didn't want to waste his drugs on a newbie.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Thank God.
Thank God.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Wow. So what takes you to the addiction? What is it, because that you're being beaten and you're frustrated and you're stressed and you don't want to live, that you just
It was
continue to self-sabotage yourself?
I really didn't, at that point, I didn't feel like I had anything to live for.
Gotcha.
My addiction, I found my husband.
Yeah,
Can you
let's
believe
talk about that. Let's talk about
in
Dwayne.
my addiction, in my life of addiction, God sent me my husband.
All
because I was partying. At one point in my life, I could do 10 hits of acid at one time. And that's not a good thing for a person to do. That's how much I was trying to get out of here, where I didn't want to be anymore. And so God sent me an anchor, a partner that would truly love me for me and love me through the glue.
Yeah.
Because that's what he was doing at that point. God was beginning to pick up all the pieces that were me. And when I tell people that, that's what got me through. It's like my husband was the saucer that he began to put the pieces on and work around. Because he never faltered. He never went anywhere. It was like he was meant to be the foundation that God was going to use to work with. Because love was what was hurting me.
Yeah.
So love was what was going to heal.
So you're going through so much. You've been through so much with a man. How difficult is it as a domestic violence victim to accept and receive new love? How do you
Very
ration
hard.
that out? Yeah.
Very hard. That's why I say he loved me through the broken part.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until I was healed that I really got to see and appreciate the love that I had gotten, that God had put in there, which really made our relationship really grow. And I can tell you, we married in 1991. And it really wasn't until about 1998, 1999 that I really got the whole concept. I got clean in 95, in the middle of 95. I began
Okay.
to put my life together, and I began to
Amen.
realize that I had a son to live for and a husband to live for, as well as myself. So while I was learning to love myself, he was teaching me to love him.
Oh, well, you know what? Everybody doesn't get that silver lining right there like you did. God is good.
No,
God is
no, they
able.
don't. But
Yeah.
I think God gives a little bit of hope sometimes, and I know that there are situations still, as you say, where people aren't here to share their story, where
Yeah.
they're not as blessed to have that saucer.
Yeah.
But it's because sometimes we, as their friends, as their family, sometimes don't see it. But if the education is out there, then the signs are visible, then the red flags are out there.
Yeah.
Maybe we can spot it a little sooner. Maybe it won't take 3 years for a woman to have SWAT come get her out. Maybe it won't take 9 years of healing for a woman to receive love again, because she'll understand that, hey, it might actually be a possibility that it's there.
What kind of warning signs should people look for if you're in a new relationship? Because we have to stop this stuff off at the head. The moment we find these things, because one of the things that I do know, Wendy, is that several women that have been on this show, they said, Ella, I didn't know I was in domestic violence. I just thought it was a relationship. The man is crazy about me, a little protective, those kinds of things. So what can you say to people, the different kinds of things they need to look out for to say, I don't know, seems a
First
little
red flag
controlling?
is, does he separate you away from your family and your friends?
Oh, good point. Yeah.
If you cannot be next to your family and your friends at his demand, he needs all your time, that's a big red flag.
Ooh.
Here's an odd flag that a lot of people don't understand. Does he have an animal around? Do you have an animal? How does he treat that animal?
Oh, wow. Never thought about that one.
Yes. Because see,
Okay.
animals don't have a voice. They can't tell you that they're being hurt.
So did you
If
have
a
an animal
man
and did
will
he
reach
hurt?
over and knock an animal real hard, like he's gonna knock its
Oh.
sense out,
Oh.
that man will turn around and knock you.
Did he do that to your animal?
Yes.
Oh.
It's one of the signs.
What's something else you noticed that you look back and you're like, you know what? That was it. That was it. Wait, what can you say
Oh, well,
that was?
if you love me, you'll do this.
Yeah.
Love is not a weapon or a card you should use. If you love me, I'll be able to do it this way. Or if you love me, you'll forgive me that I just beat you up and left you for dead. You'll give me another chance. No. Because if he'll do
Did
it
you ever
one,
go to the hospital? Wendy, did you ever go to the hospital for your bruises
yeah.
being hurt? What
Yeah.
time was that
I
he
had to go
beat
to
you
the
so
hospital for my
badly?
miscarriages.
Oh, the miscarriages. Yeah. Did you tell them what happened? Did you have bruises on your body when you went?
Oh, yeah. I was not allowed to tell what those bruises were from.
What did you say?
Remember, he knew where I was. He was who I was living with. Where did I have to go safe? There were no safe houses to my knowledge.
So what did you
I'm
say to the
53.
hospital
This
attendants?
was when I was 16. This is 35
Yeah.
years ago.
What did you say to them though? They see bruises.
Oh,
What did you
I
say?
would tell them that, I was just playing around with the dog and I ran into the edge of the
Yeah.
desk or the table, because he was smart about where he put his bruises. Because
Oh,
you
really?
can open a cabinet and smack yourself at it. You can run into a headboard or a desk or a table and leave a bruise on a leg. My
Did you
stabbing was
ever?
another story. My stabbing, it was, I'm taking you to the hospital, but if you tell them I did it, we've got a problem. You better tell them somebody tried to rob you or something.
He stabbed you.
Yes.
Where?
He threw a knife and it landed in my leg. I still held a 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch scar on my leg.
Oh my God. Did you? I often wonder this because when I'm watching television, I'll see like a woman that's in distress and she'll go into a hospital or she'll be around a police officer and they'll look at her a certain way. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you were hoping they would just figure it out?
Oh, please take me alone. That's what I wanted. Just
Oh,
take me alone away from him. He never left my side. He was always there. It
and
wasn't
watching you.
until
Yeah.
later on in life that they would let people go in there and, be by themselves. Oh, we can't have you in here. We're going to examine them first. Can you leave the room? Because every time I was questioned, he was there. What was I going to say? Oh, this guy right here, this man that brought me into this hospital, he's the one that did it. This is he said, she said.
Because the sad part about it, Wendy, is that the punishment for people that abuse women is like up to a year in jail. Like it's nothing
That's
really.
if you get the justice. If you can be brave enough to stand up to the person who's tried to take your life, who's left you bruised so bad and hurting so bad that you lose your child that you're carrying because he doesn't want one. This is the one that's, might be standing there at home with the woman who has children at home waiting. Need, mind you. Thank God I wasn't a woman that had a child at home like my mother was.
Yeah. I'm sure that makes it more difficult.
We were at home with him. Who was she going to tell? He had her children. That is the predicament. If you hold up a handful of women that have been through domestic violence, I guarantee you 3 out of 5 probably have that story. That's because they have somebody that they have control of or that they have their stuff. And people don't understand that.
I had a situation once where I had a guest. When she was telling her story, she explained how instead of the husband taking her out, he killed their son right in front of her. Yeah. That's like probably the most drastic story I think I've had on this
How can
show.
I hurt you the most?
Yes,
I know.
by taking your
I'll take
kids.
the thing you love most, that you love more than me.
And he shot both.
Anything more than me.
Yeah, he shot both sons. There was just only one of them died. The other one survived.
I promise I remember looking at the shotgun as he told my mother he would kill us.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
My brother was a year old.
Did he ever sexually abuse you?
Thank God, no. Not to my recollection. The only thing we had was physical abuse. He would hit us with ease. So my mother would get in between. And when she would step in between, they would start fighting. You're not going to hit my kids. And, oh, yes, I'm going to do whatever I want. No, you're not. And, well, then fine. I'm going to beat the hell out of you.
And that's what he did.
That's what he did.
So in your situation, you never really called the cops?
No. Not at that point.
Is that because you were afraid to, or because you didn't think they were going to do anything, or both?
I would say a little of both.
Yeah.
And then here's the real shocker. The third one. What if they did? What was going to happen to me? And could he find me like the other one did and be even more mad because I did something?
Yeah.
And then where were they going to put me? I was 17. I had nowhere to go. The only place they would take me, they were going to call my mother. Just like always. They called my mother. So it's just going to put me back in that where I didn't want to be. So it was rock and a hard spot.
Yeah. I see Carolyn is watching. Carolyn is the guest that I was talking about how her husband shot their 18-year-old son right in front of her. And, just to share a little bit of your story, Carolyn, she told the kids, stay in the room, no matter what happens out here with me, stay in the room. And he kept calling for them to come out, come out. And so I guess the children didn't want anything to happen to her, naturally so.
Right.
And they came out. And as soon as they came out, he shot them, just standing right there in front of her. And one of the children, the one that died, passed away right there in that home that she's still living in.
Well,
And
I'm
the other
sorry
one
you
was able to
really
escape
had to
and
go
get
through
out.
that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you tuned in, Carolyn, because you're still in my heart. You always will be. If you want to come on the broadcast, and I see that you and Tommy, these are my friends, and they're both domestic violence survivors. So if you guys want to come on the show, click on that link. I put it in the studio tonight. So anybody that wants to come on, because what happens is something that, this is a serious issue, guys.
It is.
And I think it needs to be on the ballot box. I think that we should start demanding more out of our politicians to take this stuff to Congress and try to come up with better punishment, more stricter punishment for people that abuse. Because a year, nobody's going to call for that. Nobody's going to. I understand why people endure it. There's a lot more to lose because you could possibly lose your life. I also had a situation on a show where a young lady, her mother finally convinced her to call the cops. She called the cops. They arrested him. Well, guess what? He got out on a PR bond. And what do you think he did? He went back to the house where she was sitting and he killed her. He stabbed her like 20 times in her belly, her pregnant belly, because he didn't want anyone else to raise his son, and killed her.
So the issue
she did the
that
right
I was
thing.
talking about at the beginning of the show was a woman who had called me for some help.
Okay.
She knew I was helping domestic violence survivors. If they couldn't get help at a shelter because they were full, they could call me and I would search. I would spend hours and hours and days searching to get them somewhere safe. So I was on the phone with this woman. I had talked to a local nonprofit owner who helps domestic violence survivors. They go in, they take them, and they take and rescue them into a new place if they're ready to go. So this woman was ready to go. She literally got her stuff, and this man was chasing her down the road in her car. So she called me. I said, go to the police department, right? What's your first thought? Go to the police department. At least let's go there. She got into the police station and is standing there in front of the police officer, and the officer is saying, ma'am, I can't do anything for you. Just have to make a report. Ma'am, I need to file this report right here. There's nothing I can do for you right now until we get this report done, and then we can make the charges, and then we can go through this. Sir, he's outside. He chased me down. I heard this woman scream on the phone for her life because he almost ran her off the road. They weren't going to do anything. I had to call someone to have an Army sergeant go to that police department, pick that woman up, and have someone else drive her vehicle. She never picked up the vehicle. She never got back in it. And to this day, she's safe.
Thank God. Oh, thank God. Carolyn had that same experience. She called the cops several times and they did nothing. Just the good old boy system where they just like, oh, you and your old lady need to work it out, that kind of stuff. And it's almost like I have these shows and we try to give advice. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, as you can see, scrolling across the bottom there. We tell people to get out before it's too late, but it's not that easy. I am seeing that now from interviewing you guys. It's not that easy to just leave. So what do we do? What do we do, Wendy? What do they do? What do women who are in this situation do?
We educate families and friends. We educate us as women and men, because 1 out of 7 men has the same difficulty. Then we give resources. Why do they stay? What am I going to do? I have 3 kids. I got bills to pay. I got no job. I've never done anything. He's kept me at home. I've never been anything but a mother. What's she gonna do for a resource? What kind of experience does she have? Taking care of children in a house? What kind of jobs do we give them? What kind of access to the ability to start over do we give them? Getting them out might be a great part, but it is not the important part. It's the educating them not to go back. It's the giving them the ability not to have to go back.
Right.
Because I guarantee you each
That's
time
key.
he says, oh, baby, I'll take you back. Come on. I love you. It's all right.
That's very key, Wendy. You made a very good point by saying they don't have to go back, because if a man is the only one that's working and providing all the money, and it's either you go back or you're going to be homeless, no food, no resources. And the next thing you know, DCF is looking you down because now you don't have a home for your kids. Now they're going to try to take your kids. It's just, it's like a snowball effect. It's a domino effect.
You can't even play the, I got a car that's in my name, so let me take my children in my car. Because why? Because they're going to take your kids if they find out you're living in your car. You can't do that. We have to learn to help and get the advice out there, get the support out there, get the ability to do so and not be quiet. My biggest thing was I was quiet for so long because I was ashamed. First of all, people look at me all the time and go, how do you know domestic violence? You've been married for 34 years. Doesn't mean I don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean I didn't experience it before I got married.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I wasn't a troublemaker for my husband and mess up when he went to jail because we was being dumb. And the time he was in jail, put myself in a situation that was going to hurt me.
Yeah.
These are things that happen. They say life happens. But what do we do when the life happens? What kind of resources are out there? What kind of things that are available and known? We're so quiet that from shame, fear, disappointment, oh, they're going to look at me different. And nobody wants to hear, why did you not leave? Why did you stay?
There it is, Carolyn. There it is.
Right there. Make sure that Congress has that. Not just stricter laws to make it available, but to make the funds available. We make so many funds available for so many other things. Why don't we have something for women who are running for their life?
Education,
they're not doing it because they don't like him anymore.
No, I think education. You said that education is key, and I'm going to tell you why I believe that 100%. Because these legislators, they don't see, they think it's a choice. Well, you know what? Just leave him then. No. And it's going to take people to be educated and research to find out that doesn't work. Because like Leslie said on the video we saw, it becomes more dangerous when you leave, right? Because now he's going to look for you, doesn't have anything to lose, and he doesn't care about killing you. I don't care. I'll kill you, and then I'll kill myself. Who cares? These are people that are hopeless. Now, this is one thing I would like to see, and I know this is probably a difference of opinion with a lot of people. I feel like the abusers need help too.
They do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do you know that 8 out of 10 abusers have been abused?
Oh, I 100% believe that. Yes. Yes.
So if the cycle can be stopped and the abuser can find healing in God or religion, whatever it may be that they have, mine is Jesus. I love my Jesus. But some kind of healing and some kind of something, they too can change. Yes. I know this for a fact. I have seen a gentleman that was raised in a particular fashion because of life. Different religions have different types of life and different things. And we're lucky that we're in America and we have freedom of choice, right?
Yeah.
Some lifestyles are not like that. When they grow up in other countries, or they come from other places and they come over here, or they have their parents that have come over here, but they still carry the culture. Some of those things are very in there. Some women in some cultures aren't meant to be in the same room as the men when they eat. They aren't meant to do religion study with them. They're not allowed to do education study with them. They are to be their hands that clean, feed, take care of their homes, take care of their stuff, do all these things. Well, this gentleman was like that. That's the way he was raised.
Right.
So when he found God and found that there was a treasure in a woman, he began to learn things new. And he would tell me as he was learning, he said, "Why are you talking to me? I'm a monster." And I said, God doesn't pick
Yes.
who we talk to.
Yes. Yes.
When we're set on an assignment,
Yes.
and as a pastor,
Yes.
which I am now a pastor, God will give you this knowledge. I call it a God wink.
Yeah.
Where you know he's talking to you. And this man was blind. He no longer can see. He's calling himself a monster. And so he explains to me what he had done. And I understand why he called himself a monster. And he said, "Please forgive me." And I said, "I'm not the person that needs to forgive you. That's between you and God and the person you hurt. Now, if you have time and opportunity to reach out and ask forgiveness with no strings attached, big for you."
Listen, I look forward to the day, Wendy, me, you, all of the abusers, the ones who have been victims can come together on this platform. If you are an abuser, you're also welcome to this platform. Why? Because this is a place where God dwells. It's like a hospital, the Ella Johnson Show. And coming here and leaving should have two different things. I want you to come one way and leave another way. The only way that can happen is to usher in the Spirit of God. And where God is, there's love. So if there are people out there that have abused and have found God and want to share their story, please, by all means. I don't know about anywhere else, but you are definitely welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. Because here's the thing, like you said, Wendy, we have to stop this. Because let's say your abuser, if he were still alive and he hadn't healed and he hadn't found God, someone else would be going through this same situation. I had a young lady on my show one time who she was in a lesbian relationship, and that's who her abuser was, a woman. And she managed to get out of that situation. But the next person that abuser got with got killed. She killed that person. So that's why healing is so important to me. We as victims, as women that are victims, this show is for you. We bring women on to tell their stories, but I feel like it's not a complete circle until the men are healed also. So I just want to just in my heart pray for those men that have abused, the one who is dead now that abused you, and Carolyn's husband and Tommy's ex-wife, and all these people who have been abusers need help also. So you found love, and through your what you went through, you founded the Butterfly Queen pageant. Let's talk about that. What's the mission of this pageant?
Healing.
Healing. I love it.
It is to spotlight and educate domestic violence. It is to get the word out that you can survive. It
Yeah.
is to get the word out that if you are still alive, you are surviving.
Amen.
I can't stand the word victim
Yeah.
because, by golly, if you're looking at me, I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I might
Amen.
still be going through the storm, but I'm surviving.
Yes, you are.
And so only the victims are those that can't speak anymore.
Right.
And they need the survivors that are still here to testify. You know, there aren't very many stories like mine of positivity. We need to hear those, but we need to hear the education as to why we were able to get through it.
Yes.
Why? Because I had found love again, and that love gave me the strength. So keep hope, knowing that there is a chance again. Keep
Amen.
hope. I like survivor, thriver, or overcomer. I
That's
do
a
as
good one,
well.
Tommy.
I
I
like
like
that
it.
because you have
Yeah.
overcome it, and
Yeah.
so that's why I use the butterfly queen, and that's why I use a butterfly, because butterflies go through this chrysalis stage where they once were this something that they thought was nothing, right? It's a caterpillar. It's
That's right.
it's this
Amen.
ground grumbling whatever thing that crawls
Yeah.
across the tree and stuff. But God does such an amazing metamorphosis with the butterfly. He puts you in this little chrysalis, in this cocoon to protect you. And those are
Yeah.
those years that he's showing you how you need to love yourself, because you can't come out of that if you don't know who you are. You're not going to be able to fly,
Amen.
right? He's going to put the things around you in the world that need to be there so that when you do open your wings, you have the wind that is underneath you that will support you. Because it's hard to believe that a butterfly, as delicate and as soft as it can soar up with the birds in the sky. But it can. So I give
Amen.
my girls the thing. Butterflies can soar. We're almost where eagles can. Because as long as the wind can carry them, God can take them up. And
I love
so
it.
what I do is I take survivors and I bring them into the program, and what becomes is a familyhood. And it started out as just for surviving women of domestic violence, and it has escalated to so much more.
Oh, I
Last
love
year,
it.
we added a young man who is, like
Oh,
me, a
nice.
child survivor. We added my husband, who had survived abuse from his parent. And this is why. Because domestic violence is anything that is violent against you, your family member, your sometimes even your property, because they go after, they'll go after your stuff if they can't get to you. Well, I'll damage your
That's
car.
right.
I'll throw bricks
Yeah.
through your wall. I'll throw bricks through your window. I'll set your house on fire. I mean, all these things. So if it's any kind of violence like that, I bring them in. We give them a sash and a crown. They get all the attire from the pageant that they do. So that means someone sponsors their formal wear. Sometimes they're what we call a outfit of choice. Or the first year they were able to do real pageant style, which is a fun fashion. So we got, oh gosh, damaged clothes, stolen jewelry, and passport. That's, don't judge your sexual workers. That's what brings that up right there. Passport. If they have your identification, they can force you to do anything, even your partner. But we work at getting them past that in the pageant. We look for survivors and overcomers that have been out of it at least a year, because I don't want to push anybody's triggers or emotions
Right.
too hard.
Right.
They obviously got to know what they are, what they've been through, and able to voice this because they're going to be put in front of people because it's a pageant. So there's going to be people there that are going to support them because we fill the room with supporters and family members and activists and other queens in the pageant world that come and volunteer to let them know that they are beautiful,
Amen.
they are loved.
I love
they are
it.
just as important to have that crown on their head as the one that
I
worked
love
at the
it.
competition.
I love it.
Then through the year, we try to do things like outings and photo shoots and things like that so that we can give a therapeutic healing because nothing is harder, like I say, than forgiving. If they can't be given forgiveness because they can't ask for it, that's hard. And if they do ask for it, do they really mean it? And are you ready? That was one of the things that encouraged me to do that is for the healing because you can't have healing if you don't give forgiveness.
Amen.
Because if you don't get over the forgiveness, you're going to hold that hurt. So I can stand here today, even though I bring tears to my eyes, it's because I know that there are women still in my predicament to this day.
Yeah.
To know that a woman, 40 years difference, was still going through the same thing my mother did and went to the police and still wasn't getting no help. It was almost a trigger for myself. It was a trigger for my mother. Yeah. And so she began to support the domestic violence and she began to realize, and it gave us extra healing. And I'm thankful for God for that.
I love it. I know.
It could have been so much worse because, you know, I actually became my mother's caregiver in the last years of her life.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think I would have had that healing and the love and the ability to go, there is hope. And there is the ability to forgive because hurt people doesn't mean that you don't have to ask forgiveness and don't have to give it.
That's right.
To assume that the easiest person to hurt is the easiest person to forgive. Sometimes it's the hardest person to forgive.
Yeah.
Because we've got to think about those things. You know, when my husband and I would go through things, I would think about my children first. What are they going to go through? If I leave him and I get in the wrong relationship again, what are they going to suffer?
Exactly.
He was a good man. It didn't matter that we had our troubles because I was having issues. And you know, you say, how do you learn to love again? He had to learn to be able to approach me in different ways than a regular man would.
Right.
You know,
God equipped him with what he needed to give you what you needed.
Because
yeah.
I couldn't just be come up upon in the back. You know, to be honest, when we laid together in bed, it took years before he could hold me in certain directions or put his arm around me in a certain way. You know, they do these, you know, you got TikTok and all these things, and they show all these pictures, and they show this picture of a gentleman who's taller than the woman, and they're trying to make these beautiful poses, and one of them is with a man who puts his arm around like this. You couldn't do that for me for a long time because it triggered me. It made me feel insecure and unsafe. My husband's 6'3" and I'm 5'6". It's natural to come up and grab your honey from behind like that when you're a tall man. And when he noticed, he would fix it. And so my encouragement is to the education. It brings awareness not only to the survivors, but to those that are in the survivor's life. A person
that's very good.
Might know that this person has been in a tough relationship. They'll approach them a little easier. They'll be understanding when the trigger hits off and they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
So education is key to that, for instance, of both sides. I love when it started, you said, it says that there are two sides to every story.
Yeah.
It's not just the overcoming and the victim story that we've got to hear. Sometimes it's getting it out so that the abuser can hear it. And he needs to know where he's done wrong. Maybe he could learn a lesson from it.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Maybe they need therapy.
Of
Maybe
course.
they had a husband.
There's
or not
something
a husband,
that led
a
them
mother
to
or a
it.
father
Absolutely.
who abused
Yeah.
them. Or maybe
Yeah.
they had a babysitter that took advantage of them and caused them
Yeah.
to go off.
Or a family member that took
Yeah.
their virginity or
There
something.
are reasons why people
Yeah.
that have been in those situations are the way they are.
I
Just
agree.
like the gentleman I was talking about. His lifestyle was that way. So he didn't know
Yeah.
anything else. When he learned
Yeah.
there was something else, well, by golly, guess what? He found a wife. He treats her well. You know, he found out what love really meant.
It's really all about. Yeah. I like that. I like what your pageant stands for. I think that's a very good thing. The next time you have one, let me know. I will travel to your city and be there in the audience to
Well,
just cheer
guess
them on
what?
as well.
We
What?
have one every year. This year's pageant
Okay.
is on September 20th. So I
Okay.
welcome you out. I'll make sure I get all the information with you. And
Okay.
we have men and women.
All
So
right. You hear that,
prepare
Tommy?
to see the
We're going
glory of
together.
both men and women walking down the runway in their glory and in their prime, knowing
I love
they
it.
don't have to be treated that way, that they are glorious, that they are worth the crown that God has here, because they've been through the tough times. They don't have to compete for crown. They've already done it. They've already survived the thing. So I'm just ready for it. We'll probably be having a couple of things with the pageant as well. Like we do art therapy and music therapy with some of them. So if anyone is specialized in the Houston and surrounding areas that works with that, our group right now is really looking for people to help host nights and sponsor those nights for that, because therapy does a lot. And
sure.
you know, as they were discussing in the chats there on our live here, you know, it's mental health awareness, and our mental health and the well-being of our civility is right on it. And so, you know, being able to survive means I gotta have something else to stimulate that. I've got to have something that can help me. And many times people are like, well, what helped you? Well, I sang, or, you know, I thought of these prayers, and I thought of this picture, or I thought of this motion that God got me through, or that I might get through.
Yeah.
You know, and so we always look
So
forward to those.
I want to switch gears a little bit, because before we get out of here, I want to touch on this subject, and I will come back and talk about this, because I have a young lady that is just dying to get on here to talk about this particular situation. It's highly publicized. You guys have heard about the Diddy trial, what's going on. The only reason I want to bring that tonight, because sexual abuse is part of the allegations. And I think it's important. It's one of those, it's a tough subject to talk about. What I learned though, Wendy, is that the opinions are very mixed, which is another reason I want to talk about it. I want people to come on here that are for it, against it, agree, don't agree, upset, want to see more, whatever your opinion is, it's welcomed here. But I just want to talk about it. The sexual abuse, the allegations, we know that sex trafficking, sexual abuse is part of his charge. And he's looking at like life in prison with a minimum 15 years, the sex trafficking part. I'm not going to talk about all the other stuff, but the sex part, the abuse, because it's saying, we know that power control is what sexual abuse is all about. And when you break it down, I mean, we're talking about, okay, that he is he's using his position to encourage people to do whatever he wants, coerce them into stuff. What do you think about the fact that he's saying it was consensual? What is your opinion?
I have mixed reviews on that. I don't believe that all those times that it was consensual. If
Okay.
the abuse is true, and a lot of times when a woman finally admits that she has been in that position, it has happened. I've seen very few times that it's not. So here you go. This is a guy who's got lots of money, lots of power, in the spotlight, a celebrity. The world's looking at him. When you go to trial, it's a he said, she said thing, right? So if you don't got proof in the beginning and you don't have enough people that are right there by you, how are you going to bring it up and who's going to believe you?
Here's a part of this that troubles me, because money came into it. And that's the part that makes me take pause. Not saying, please help me, please let me say this. I'm not saying that anything that happened to her was right. He abused her. There should definitely be some looking into this. However, if I'm going to look into this, as you suggest, that's one of the things that we're looking at. The fact that there's money that came involved. Now, for me, here's this, and you can't tell an abuser how to handle their situation. I would never do that, because they're the ones living it. They're in it every day. We're not in it. But when you bring money into it as a way to expose it, instead of bringing the police in it to expose it, I take pause.
That's why I said I had mixed reviews on it. So when you go for it for justice, then you're doing it for the right reason. Now, if you went to the police first and got compensation afterwards,
that's different, because victims are compensated.
That's right.
But we didn't do that route first.
Blackmail?
That's something different to me. And that's just my strongest opinion there. Yeah.
So blackmail to me puts it as a different story. That means, okay, you hurt me in one fashion, so I'm going to hurt you in another that I know can hurt you bad. That's like saying, okay, in today's society, a teenager gets mad because their parent won't give them the car keys. So they call CPS and tell CPS that the parent is abusing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take my phone and my car keys away. They're abusing me. So that's part of what makes it hard for us to differentiate the abuse from the not so much abused. So
now, this is another thing.
Very key.
Yeah.
To knowing what's going on and seeing both sides of the story. So she may very well have had some abuse in that. But the proper way would have been to go the proper channels, not trying to do blackmail, because blackmail just does nothing but throw dirt on the situation, which doesn't make it come out clean.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think, because she said that there was a situation there where there was some texting going back and forth, and she was actually asking for the freak offs. I thought we could get one in, or I thought something to that effect. She was okay with it. Do you think that she said that, because she's about that life? Do you think she said it because she's trying to impress him? Which one do you think it is, or both?
I would say maybe a little bit of both. I mean, in case you didn't hear my story, when I was going through all that stuff, part of it was me. Maybe I might not have deserved what was there, but I put myself into that situation. So if I have the ability to go somewhere else, and I have a loving family, and I have support, and I don't go to the support, am I really able to scream all the way that he did it all the time? Not saying it makes it any better, but there's an education to the fact, if you know you have support, you can get out. If you're going back to him and saying, well, I think I need to have this money, and I don't need to go through this stuff, Or even more than that, how about it became a lifestyle for her?
Yeah, she didn't want to give up that lifestyle. And I think that what she wanted out of the lifestyle was the money. She didn't bet on all the sex and all the beatings. She didn't think that was going to be part of it.
No,
But
she
you
probably
made a
did.
good
And
point.
she got
Yeah,
all of the stuff on the way. So she did get fame, fortune, all of these things out of it. But that does not give it the excuse for the things to happen.
absolutely. Do you
You
think there
know
was
what I'm
love there? Do
saying?
you think he
That's why I
loved
say
her?
I have mixed, because
Yeah,
it doesn't give it the excuse. But if you went in there going for fame and fortune and the things that are to come with that, I'll remind everybody, for the love of money is the root of all evil.
say that
Not
again.
money itself, but for the
The love
love
of
of
money.
money
Thank you for
is the
quoting that
root of all
correctly.
evil.
Yes. Thank you for
So if
quoting it
you love
correctly.
the money
Yeah.
that much and you put yourself into a dangerous situation and wait and to use it until later, you're not benefiting yourself and you're not helping the educational world and those that are out here that really do suffer.
Do you think that there was like, what was the end goal? Do you think that she wanted to be his wife? Do you think there was love? And this, I mean, because I can't imagine going into a marriage knowing that your man gets off on watching you be with someone else. That's is that the end goal? Are we going to get married? Are we going to have kids? Like, you gotta have, you had to have talked about that at some point, you
You
know?
would have thought so.
Yeah.
But maybe there was love. Maybe she loved him to that point and thought maybe it would change if it, maybe it would get,
There it is. There it is. Very good
maybe,
point.
maybe if I change myself into this position, or I say, okay, maybe it will change. Maybe, just maybe, I can come out on the top this time instead of on the bottom on the floor.
But there's something in my gut. I'm just being, the reason I want to talk about this is because it is good to hear other people's viewpoints. Because my guest that I'm going to bring on, I was actually trying to get her tonight, but we had some technical difficulty and I couldn't get her on. But I am definitely going to bring her back to the broadcast, and you can come back to Wendy. I want a lot of people, whether you agree or don't agree, whatever your position is, it's welcomed here. I don't just want everyone on the show that agrees with me. I want people who don't as well. But my opinion is it's like it's on a line, because we weren't there. None of
Yeah.
us were. None of us were in that house. None of us know exactly what happened. All we all have to go off is, the only thing all of us have to go off is what is coming out in court. And how much of that can you believe? Well,
Right.
that's why we have court, because we trying to get to the truth.
And I think that's why we have such a problem with domestic violence to begin with, is because which side do you believe? There's always two sides. It's a he said and she said, or it's a she said and she said, or, whichever way it ends up being, there's two sides of every story. And so they're like, well,
That's right.
how do I differentiate?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because a lot of people say that they're my thing is, if there's anything that she did that caused a little bit credibility, is the money part. That's the only thing. Other than that, I'm like, listen, let the chips fall where they may. But when you bring money into a situation, that should have been cops. Because the moment that if you had courage to ask him for money, you should have had courage to ask him to leave.
come on, that right there.
Yeah.
That right
Yeah.
there.
So you
That's
did
why I
have
see you're
courage,
on the
because that
line
was
of it.
bold as hell. Yeah, that was bold as hell to ask for $30 million.
I mean, that's a lot of money to be trying to keep I'm going to keep silent, Sue,
So then if you could keep silent about it, then it really didn't matter to you.
Right.
I'm just saying. So $30
it
million would have shut you up.
It does kind of dull the
Yes.
whole situation. It does also make it very hard for us when we go to push legislation and we try to say, well, these things are happening. And they're like, yeah, but you got this going on.
Yeah. But and you're right about that. I just hope it doesn't weigh too heavily, because there are real people out here in a real situation.
I really believe that in today's society that we're beginning to have enough survivors speak up and speak out and not stand for it anymore.
Amen.
That I believe the situation shouldn't hinder our growth in what we're doing.
Yeah.
The things that are happening today in 2025 are not like they were in 2017 when I started, or in 2019 when I did my first domestic violence rally and march downtown Houston from Discovery Green to City Hall, and ended up at City Hall so the mayor could hear us.
Yeah. That's
You
awesome.
know,
That's good. Yeah,
yes.
let's get these politicians involved, because listen, when we get into a new cycle of voting that's going to come in November, I think that whenever there's a voting cycle coming, use
Yeah.
it to get what we want.
Yes.
Domestic violence needs to
And
be
here's
on
the
the
thing.
ballot. Yeah.
Do the research just like you do on anything else. Here is the most important thing. Research your politician. Make sure that they have the same values. They fight for the
Amen.
same cores and principalities that you do. That if you walk in the thing, they're not going to look at you and go, oh, well, I got office, but what am I going to do for you?
Listen, I got a call today when I was preparing for your show. I got a call, and I normally don't answer the phone anyway, but I did. For some reason, I answered that time, and she was calling because this guy in our area is running for office, and she's doing her little spiel. Yes, and we would love to appreciate your vote. And I was like, okay, what does he stand on? She got choked up. I'm sure she wasn't used to people wanting to know. Like, don't just think because you see me on a certain see my name on a roll for being this person, and now you just assume you got my vote. No, you have to earn my vote. I'm sorry.
I think
You
one of the
still
most
got to earn it.
important things I learned about voting was knowing that I had the right to choose who I wanted, not
Absolutely.
what party, but who I wanted.
Right.
And being an open voter, you can vote whatever you choose.
I don't believe in just going party lines. I don't. You got to earn it.
I don't believe in going party lines either, because sometimes it really don't work out that way. And we want to make the legislation that is going to help us and to improve us. And so we need to get the people that are going to be there, that are going to vote for the laws, that are going to take into consideration that it's 2 stories, but yet there are things. And here's a kicker. I want somebody who's not going to be in office that's just going to work on intimate domestic violence. I want somebody to recognize violence as a whole, because children suffer from it. The elderly suffer from it. People that are patients in the hospital. We talk about sexual assault. When I started, that was one of the things I was talking about. Everybody was talking about the different types of domestic violence. And I said, how many people are in these hospitals that are in comas? And we've heard of pregnant women in a coma that they gave birth to a baby, but they've been in a coma for years because someone sexually assaulted them. And there's no help for that. So when we go into it, we've got to take and do it as it's almost like we've got to take a textbook and open it and say, here's our table of contents as to what we need. These are our demands. You need to make the educational series available. You need to quit promoting the fact that police officers have the choice of whether they want to get into domestic violence or not.
Right.
Did you know?
Because
that is a choice.
Because some of them might be in abusive relationships themselves, and so they side with the men. That's what happened with Carolyn. Is that they're gonna be like, look, y'all work this out. You and your old lady go home, work this thing out. Now I want to come back out here. If somebody's going to jail, like, come on, we have desensitized ourselves to this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the rough thing. It has to give solutions, not just a quick fix. It needs to be a good permanent
real solutions.
If a woman or a man has been in a relationship with an officer and that is what they're having to work around, first of all, take into consideration that officer has a whole league of people behind him believing him or her.
Oh, that's right. That's it.
I have a friend that ended up committing suicide because she never got the help she needed because her abusive relationship was with a police officer. The officer didn't take her money.
She already knew.
She did.
They
took her children, took her all her other stuff, cost her a whole lot of heartache, mental illness, mental issues, instability with herself. It caused her to take her own life. And these are things that we forget about in these situations. 8 out of 10 times, the abuser takes the life. the other two, that victim does.
Ooh.
Because it's too hard to deal with. It's too much trouble. I'm not getting anywhere anyways. I might as well just end it right here. My only way out is death.
I don't want that to happen. And that is why we have these shows. We're going to continue having these shows. Wendy, I appreciate you so much. You have been an amazing guest. It's very transparent. You've helped us a lot. I know that this is not going to be the end of our relationship, because I am definitely going to come to Texas. When you have that pageant, I want to know ahead of time so I can fly out, because I'm sure I'm going to bring my sister with me. Tommy, Carolyn, all of us, let's take a trip and go to Texas and be there to support these women.
On, we'd
the
love
Butterfly
to
Queen pageant. Absolutely. Well, listen, I am just so excited that Tommy, thank you. Thank you, Desiree. Is that how you say your name? I'm sorry if I'm not saying it correctly, dear. But thank you, Desiree, for being here to support. Carolyn, thank you. Tommy, all of you, because they are also survivors who have been on this broadcast and shared their stories here. You guys are always welcome. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here tonight. Wendy, is there anything that you'd like to say before we go?
Just remember that love is more than just a feeling. Love is an action. If the person doesn't put your needs, your wants, your desires, and your well-being first, then they really don't love you, because someone who loves you is going to put all of those things first. That's going to be the top of their list. They're going to treat you like the queen you should be. They're going to treat you like the king you should be. They're going to adore you, and they're not going to do it for just a short amount of time. It will be a lifetime.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all so much. I'll be back next week. Listen, I am continuing to build this show, so you just never know. I might be back before Saturday next week. But I'm looking for more guests to come on and share your story. Thank you, Wendy, for being here, being transparent, telling your story. Those of you that are watching this broadcast and you feel inspired to come here, this is a safe place, right, Wendy? Safe place.
Absolutely.
To come and tell your story, because we love you. And like I said, my purpose for doing these shows is so that you will be able to connect with this platform and get out before it's too late. If you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, please call 1-800-799-SAFE, or reach out to some of the people that you will see on this show to kind of have a more intimate conversation. I'm going to go over here. It looks like I got some comments, and I love to bring my comments up because you guys work so hard to put these comments here. Thank you, Desiree. She says, yes. Tommy, Sumo, Texas, Tommy, hugs from Seattle, Tacoma this evening. Yay. Wonderful for Tommy. And then Carolyn says, yes, I would love to, and I would enter the pageant. See? Look at that. There it is.
Absolutely, Carolyn. We'd love to have you.
So, Carolyn, I want you to reach out to Wendy. She's on Facebook. I would love for you guys to kind of meet each other, get to know Carolyn. Her story is amazing. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful person inside and out. And I would love for her to be a part of that as well. Well, okay, guys. Well, listen, I will see you next time. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so much for tuning into the Ella Johnson Show, and we'll see you next time. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time.
We are supporters of the Ella Johnson Show. We live in South Korea. We have been watching Ella Johnson Show for like a year now. And we love her show. Her show is very inspirational, motivational, and educational.
If you would like to be a guest on the Ella Johnson Show, send an email to theellajohnsonshow@gmail.com or send a text message to 407-334-6997.
We love Ella Johnson Show.